became really clear that everything that we have fought for all of these years, and the incredible amount of work and money and resources and energy of so many different individuals, really people from around the world, was all for nothing if this pipeline goes through and oil tankers get introduced to the coast. One massive disaster would just put all of that at risk. So we're in for another huge battle. It's very clear, and it's probably the biggest battle in terms of an environmental battle that Canada has ever seen. When you consider that every major oil company is behind this proposal and and could potentially benefit from it. We're not just dealing with a few relatively small timber companies. We're dealing with the world's biggest oil companies now, and they want that oil to go offshore. So this is going to be a hell of a battle.
Ian McAllister, incredible photographer, award-winning photographer, adventurer.
Andrew Nikiforuk, amazing well-researched journalist from Alberta, who's become one of the foremost experts in the energy file, and in particular what's happening in the Alberta tar sands and its global implications.
In the last 7 to 8 years, Canada has become the #1 supplier of oil to the United States. We replaced Saudi Arabia, we replaced Mexico, and the average Canadian is not yet aware of this fact. You cannot become the #1 supplier of oil to the world's mightiest empire, albeit a diminished empire, and not have that change your political and economic character.
One of the biggest threats, if you introduce tankers to this part of the coast, is that this is what's considered a quiet ocean right now. This is a quiet part of the world, and there's very few quiet parts of the world left. If you're an acoustically sensitive marine mammal, such as a humpback whale, you need to communicate over long distances underwater. And if you introduce the loudest ships on the ocean to these oceans, to these parts of the world, you can't communicate. And if you can't communicate, you can't survive. Well, ultimately, it has to be a decrease of the tar sands production. That is truly ground zero. That's where this is all coming from. So getting Canada weaned off of tar sands crude.
But fundamentally, Canadians really have to understand that the cost of energy production in the tar sands is a threat to their entire way of life. If the average Canadian really understood that it takes 12 barrels of fresh water to produce 1 barrel of oil in the tar sands, they might think twice about driving around in fuel-efficient vehicles. If the average Canadian really understood that burning hydrocarbons from the tar sands produces 3 times the carbon footprint of light conventional oil, then they might begin to understand that something has dramatically changed here. And that's where Canadians as a people have really, that's what they failed to recognize, that this resource could very well be a tipping point for civilization as we know it, for our way of life as we've come to appreciate it. What we really need to do is get Canadians engaged and get communities engaged about how they want to use their energy dollars. So rather than sending the money abroad and enriching oil companies producing oil in Algeria, North Sea, Saudi Arabia, or Iraq, Canada needs to have a conversation about keeping that money at home and using it for wind power, solar power, geothermal, tidal power, powering electric cars, all sorts of relocalizing the food economy, relocalizing much of the economy. That's a conversation that needs to take place, and that it's important that Canadians at some point in time, God only knows when they're going to choose that time, that they have a national debate about the pace and scale of this project, and that they ask themselves what they hope to achieve from this project, what problems do they actually hope to solve with this project, and what's going to be left behind for future generations.